It's time for the Maximum PC No BS podcast, episode 234 for the week of October 1st, 2014. On this week's show, we'll be talking about Windows 10, not Windows 9, some builds that we're working on for the magazine, and Oculus Rift. All that and more is coming up right now. Thanks for listening. I'm your host, Jimmy Thing, and joining me as usual, our editor, Maximum PC Editor-in-Chief, Gordon Maung.
Hello.
Tech Editor, Tom McNamara.
What's up?
And we have some special guests in Scott Moschella. Am I saying that right?
That's right.
And Brett Puttman.
Puttman, yep, that's
Puttman.
it.
And if you guys aren't familiar with these guys are our video team extraordinaire. They're responsible for putting together some of the awesome videos that we have. All right, so we'll just get right into it. The first topic that we're going to discuss is Windows 10, which Microsoft unveiled yesterday in San Francisco.
Yes, which for us is September 30th.
Right. Right. And then we actually have a developer build up in the room, which is what you're seeing if you're actually watching us on YouTube.
Technical preview, right?
Yeah, the day after they announced Windows 10, they were like, all right, by the way, you can download it from our sites. There's ISOs for 64-bit, 32-bit, and I think there's also an exe installer you can just download, and then it'll do some stuff for you. But,
right. So I mean, the biggest and most shocking thing about it is that the fact that they're calling it Windows 10 and not Windows 9, which is what we were expecting.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
I don't. Why did they give any explanation as to why they chose to skip an entire?
What they said was, would it be fair to call it Windows 9?
It was. I guess they said it was too different, or that was the implication.
That it was such a leap forward.
Yeah, but I'm not seeing. I mean,
no.
yeah,
it's hard to.
It's I don't see anything different. Obviously, it's probably missing that whole Windows 8 mess of a desktop.
It doesn't have the tile-based thing when you install it on a desktop. It does have a start menu, like we didn't really see that before. That's a touch screen, so you can actually hit the icon, the lower left hand. You can pop up the menu, so people can see it as a regular start menu that we're familiar with from previous versions of Windows, like 7 and Vista and 95 all the way back. And then they've added on the other half these tiles from the modern or Metro interface, and you can get rid of those if you don't want them. You can right click and remove that, and if you remove all of them, then that whole panel will collapse and just disappear, and you can just have your regular start menu.
Before we delve into the OS a little bit further, I want to play this clip from Family Guy. It sort of reminded me of that. The audio should be fine. I don't think you need
Peter, what exactly are you worried is going to happen because of this?
World War V.
Peter, we've been over this. There has to be a World War III and IV first.
Oh no, that's the beauty of World War V, Lois. It's so intense, it skips over the other two.
Peter, it doesn't work.
I have spoken!
So just sort of
he's got a good point, though. How topical.
Yeah. Also, there's a running joke with Windows that the even-numbered releases are shit.
Yeah.
Interesting. Is that true?
Kind of like the opposite of the Klingon.
Yeah, 98, 2000.
No.
Right.
98 and 2000 were great.
Yeah, 98 was great.
What?
They had 98, and then they had Windows ME, and then I think they had 2000.
ME blew it, and Vista blew it.
Vista,
yeah. ME, we don't talk about ME.
Yeah, maybe not odd-numbered, but every other OS release is shitty.
No, 95, 98, 2000.
Every other. It follows the Star Trek movie guideline of every other movie. Star Trek 1 sucks. Star Trek 2, great. Star Trek 3, Star Trek 4, good. Star Trek 5, the Shatner one. Suck. Right?
So they vaulted over a good release and went right back into a bad release?
Well, what happened was that by the time they were done patching up Vista and putting out service packs and whatnot, it was actually a pretty decent operating system, but nobody really wanted it because it was Vista. So I think what they did is they created an additional service pack and just called it Windows 7, and people were like, oh, this is pretty good. And like, we know. It's not that much different at this point.
Right. They're all built. I mean, people don't know, but you're actually a developer yourself. Does anybody really believe that they threw away 95% of the code base for Windows 10 from Windows 8?
No.
Right? No. It's just like, I bet there's, 85 to 90% of the code base exactly the same.
Yeah, it's like the end of Windows 7 or Windows Vista and the beginning of Windows 7. There's probably a pretty small gap between those two.
Yeah, there's like a developer adage that rewriting code is one of the dumbest things you can do. Going back and rewriting code you've already
done. But you do sometimes.
I mean, like, you refactor it, but going back and like from the ground up rewriting, that's kind of a crazy. Apple's done it once.
And Adobe's done it too, because you remember Premiere at some point just turned into an absolute POS. They did a total rewrite of Premiere. It's like night and day. Same thing with Norton. At one point, it was just it's absolute worst, antivirus program. But remember, Norton is like horrible, right? And then there was one point where it was like night and day. They did a complete rewrite. It was like, man, this is the best thing ever.
Yeah. Norton AV is actually pretty decent now.
Right. It's actually really good.
Maybe they should call it something else and get people to buy it that way.
Mr. Gordon, you have the keyboard over there. Why don't you go ahead and sort of walk us through some of the
I think this is Windows 10. It might actually just be Windows 8 now. So what? You got your start menu, right? What else can you do? Oh, it's hard to do with touch. But so of course the big thing now is no one wanted Metro. Metro apps suck. So in Windows 8, nobody used them. I know, of course, the internet now will complain, Metro's not that bad. Okay, one guy. Actually, two guys. Nick over at Tech Radar.
Yeah, Pino.
Really?
All right, but so now the cool thing is like, you hated Metro apps, but you could ignore them before. Now you can use them in desktop mode. Yeah. And of course, you have to sign in for every single freaking thing on this thing now.
Now these Metro apps are really built for touch interactions. Is that right?
Yeah, tablets and stuff.
Yeah, for the most part. Yeah. So one of the things is, now you can have your Metro apps on your desktop. It's like you didn't use them in Metro, so what the hell am I going to use them in my desktop for?
That's still, it's still a better solution than what they did with Windows 8.
Well, but in Windows 8, you just ignored the damn thing. I mean, like, you just like, whatever. Okay, Windows 8, touch things. I'm in a touch mode, 1% of the time I ever use this thing.
Right.
But but now it's like, hey, you can get these apps you never used before on your desktop.
So if you remember back with Windows 95, there was like live desktop. Do you remember this?
Active
it was like
desktop.
An active desktop.
Yes,
that's right, active desktop. It still smacks of active desktop to me, the Metro apps and interface. It just feels a little half-assed.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think they just did not want to throw it away. They basically, we've told everybody, you can resize it, bastard. Yeah. Unpin from start. There, it's gone. Right mouse click, gone.
So you can also add programs to that taskbar.
What if I went? So can I pin this to start? Yeah, notepad's there now. That's actually kind of handy.
Yeah.
Because you'll just they'll have a tool that will remove all the Metro apps and then actually put in the desktop apps you use, calculator, whatever.
It also has this. It's sort of.
Wait, you need to log in to use the calculator?
The calendar.
Okay. Only Microsoft.
Right. What else is different?
They also have that, like, it's sort of like the Android menu interface where you can bring up all your
task switching.
The task switching, exactly. Right now you only have Skype open.
And you can have multiple desktops now, which is kind of, but very clunky.
Yeah, I was able to add up to 10 virtual desktops. I just kept hitting that plus button over there, yeah.
So it actually limits you.
Until I ran out of screen space. Because that plus button will eventually be off the edge. You won't be able to hit anymore.
Is there a way to drag them?
I mean, it's a preview. I guess they might clean up that design later on. But you can just keep on hitting it, and all those will work as separate virtual.
And how do you switch between those? You have to use this button?
Right.
Yeah, you hold down on the keyboard, you hold down the Windows key, and then you hit Tab.
Okay.
And that'll open up that menu at the bottom there.
Yeah, or you can just press the button down there, too.
Yeah, it's not very elegant yet.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see some sort of animation just so you can tell you're switching between.
Yeah, you can't even tell what's going on right now. It's pretty weird.
Right, but it's very early. I mean, it's obviously a technical preview.
And the magnifying glass next to the Windows icon, the lower left-hand corner, that is actually Bing search. I think it hooks up to online Bing rather than like a desktop search. It doesn't actually search your computer.
Oh, it doesn't?
I could be wrong about that.
I think it does both, I think.
Yeah, if type a little slower, Gordon, we could see what comes up in the search results as you type. Yeah, so it'll
brings it both.
Yeah, it'll pull up both. That's pretty cool.
I think
But I don't know what the difference is between doing that and hitting the Windows icon.
Yeah, and the standard search. It seems pretty similar.
I guess the standard search limits you to the computer.
Just locally, yeah.
I want to say Windows 8 stock, the very first Windows, did not have a search bar. the bottom. I could be wrong.
No, it didn't. It didn't. Windows did not. You had to swipe in from the right and you click your search button. This is on
but there wasn't anything on the taskbar.
You could actually go to the modern interface and just start typing, and it would automatically do a search. But it wasn't.
Right.
The Windows never really told you that I can recall.
No, don't you remember? Because you do the install, and it would like, here's 2 or 3 instructions. Okay, we're done. But what about the other 10 key things I need to know?
Yeah.
Well,
so
you go on the internet, right? Figure that out.
Nobody knew that they could just like start typing and automatically start searching. So they actually had to add a search button. I think in Windows 8.1 they did that.
I remember one thing that was really unintuitive about Metro is that sometimes you open up an app in Metro and it opens up Metro and you want to get out, so you hit escape. The escape key doesn't do anything.
Yes. So let me crank up a.
So you're busting out your Surface.
I'm going to start. Store.
Okay. You might want to lift that up to the camera.
Now let me hit the escape key. Well, let me see what happens. The escape key and nothing happens, of course.
Right. Okay. And that's 8.1. I'm guessing.
Yeah, 8.1.
Gotcha. What's kind of interesting about this is that I installed it, and by default, it actually boots up to desktop. Although you can actually go in and have it boot into Metro. So Metro is still there. It's just hidden by default.
Although by design, they're going to go, oh, you've got a desktop. We're going to install it in desktop mode. Oh, you've got a hybrid device, a Surface. It'll install default to Metro, I think, is one of the things they're looking at doing.
Now that they have multiple desktops, it seems to me that what Apple does is they have this dashboard, and it's mostly useless. Maybe there are some users that find it useful, but I don't, and I can liken it a lot to Metro.
Well, what's the dashboard? Is that the little bouncy icon things that annoy you?
It's the dock. Basically the desktop slides over and reveals an area where you can put widgets.
Well, that's different. There's also Spaces on OS 10.
Yeah, Spaces, which is the desktop management.
Virtual desktops.
But what I'm talking about is this widget area that Apple's built called the dashboard. It's called the dashboard.
Yeah, it is. I never use that.
No one really uses it, but it's there if you want it, and it's really just a screen over, and all you have to do is use a hotkey to get over.
Oh, right, I know that.
Windows said that with gadgets.
Same thing. Why can't Metro be that? Why can't Metro be this? They can coexist if they just make the interface work that way.
It seems like they're trying that with this, right?
Yeah, but that's just...
It's kind of sloppy, but...
I don't know, though.
That start bar is just going to turn into a monster, I think. But, because I'm guessing developers are going to have access to this, and they're going to be able to create little widgets.
Well, supposedly you can load it up all the way across the screen if you want, which is
you can.
ridiculous.
You can actually make them bigger, Gordon. You can actually make them bigger or smaller.
Yeah.
I will right mouse clicking.
Resize. The default is medium.
Right now it's medium. Calendar is now,
So
gigantic.
Where can you get more of these widgets in that Microsoft store?
Right. So you would go to the store.
It's just off the apps.
It's just
that you download.
It's just off the apps.
Actually, I mean, it's really with anything, any program.
Any program can have a dockable widget.
Exactly. I mean, you might not have a nice image to go along with it. You might have something generic.
Yeah. It'd be nice to have like a Steam widget that shows my friends online.
I installed Steam before we got in here, so why don't we try that? I'm sure.
I think Gordon might have broken it.
I don't know what happened, but I started the store and it's just minimized. Here I can't.
Oh, it's a beta.
This is a beta.
So if I wanted to install Windows Technical Preview right now on my computer, is that just a matter of going over to the Windows site and downloading
it's a little more complicated. What I would do is I would search Windows 10 Enterprise version, because that lets you download a full ISO and do a kind of normal install from either USB key or optical drive that we're used to. So you can do a clean install. And they also, otherwise, they force you to do this executable to do sort of an upgrade in place, which I don't recommend because it's a technical preview. It turns off in about 8 months. I would just do it on a separate machine or separate.
Yeah,
I just went over to Reddit and I looked up the Windows subreddit, and there was a post that had direct links to the ISOs for different 32, 64 bits. So
and are those legit, or are those things that developers kind of leaked out?
Well, they're legit. I think Microsoft prefers for you to go to their website and sign up for their Insider program.
Gotcha.
Well, you can just do basically. You could Bing this. Or actually, I think I'm using Google now. Enterprise ISO, and there should be a link. I think the one I found was WinBuzzer, but there's other ones, and it just simply gives you a link, which on Microsoft's site does not work. I tried it this morning, and we were unable to get to the place. And you'll just download them actually from Microsoft.
And Microsoft's been doing this for quite a while. The previews that are developed open to the general public. Apple doesn't do this. They have developer previews.
So what about Yosemite? Like, can't you download?
Yeah, you can now. Yes.
Yeah. The first one that they had a public beta for.
I still believe it's NDA'd though.
Is it?
It may not be as of being public beta, but it was at least NDA'd until the public beta went live. So if you download it as a developer, you're not allowed to even post screenshots of the desktop. So
I saw a lot of people posting screenshots of like a lot.
You're not supposed to.
Why in the world do they care?
It's Apple, man.
They like to have
tight control. Tight control, and they're working on it, and they don't want anything that looks half finished making its way to, oh, look how shitty this is. So obviously Microsoft isn't afraid of that.
No, I mean, the amazing thing is, of course, the reaction has been completely reversed of what I expected. Because you look at it, a lot of the press has been fairly positive. Like, yay, Windows 7 is back. Microsoft has, they've swung back and they're now realizing desktop mode, whatever. Windows 8 wasn't that hard to get to desktop mode. You bought Windows 8, you installed it, you downloaded a free utility. Start menu was back, and that's all this is. But people are like freaking out, like it's like they fixed it. It's like this is basically Windows 8.3, right? And Jimmy was saying earlier, and it's true, this is like the most insignificant update. Yeah. Like Windows 8.1 to 8.0 was a major pain to do, right? This is actually seems like less of a change than that, but everybody's saying how fantastic this is.
But yet it's different enough to warrant an extra number.
Yeah, that makes the naming convention seem even weirder. Like that it's just kind of a UI tweak, but they skipped the whole fucking number to update the OS.
I mean, you mentioned it a little bit earlier before the show, but they're doing stuff with Windows 10 on like mobile too, which they sort of touched upon a little bit. Yeah. Did you hear a little bit more about that?
I mean, not really. They kind of just breezed over it. It seems like, but they're doing this thing where they kind of want to have the exact same experience across devices, whether it be like a laptop, a tablet, smartphone, but they didn't really talk about how they were going to implement that. I think that's probably something they're still working on. But they want to have the experience in the user interface kind of be similar across all devices.
Right. I don't know how this is going to work on Windows Phone.
I think it's still just going to be Metro. Like they still have the tiles.
It needs to be a bit smaller, I think.
Right. So it's kind of interesting because I feel like, as I mentioned before to Gordon, I feel like this is about the same leap as 8.1 was to 8.0.
Well, no, even it was more significant.
Yeah, you could argue. Yeah. I mean, some people are saying like maybe they're calling it Windows 10 to combat Mac OS 10. Right?
Well, it's actually the full name I learned is actually Windows Operating System 10. And if you want it for short, you could actually Windows Operating System X, which as we know is 10.
Way cooler.
No, I'm making that up. But
Roman numerals, that's where it's at.
Right. No, it doesn't make it's insane. I don't believe they're doing that for.
No.
I mean, they don't worry about OS 10. OS 10 is like, I don't think Microsoft cares about OS 10. OS 10, whatever. It's like OS 10 is insignificant. They're worried about Chrome.
About 10%
of
the desktop, I think.
Chrome is a huge problem for Apple and for Microsoft. Right, so that's what they're really scared of, I think. Although this isn't, they can't really do anything about Chromebooks with this in Chrome OS, but
yeah, I see where you're coming from. The pipe to my house isn't fat enough for something like a Chrome OS to be feasible. Photoshop Adobe just went over to now streaming
version,
streaming Photoshop. So Photoshop is now no longer running on your machine. It's running in the cloud. You're looking at a window onto an instance of Photoshop running in the cloud. So it's almost like VNC or something.
Right.
So you're seeing a video stream, and as your internet connection gets faster, and it definitely is going to get faster. Sorry, I'm pounding the desktop. Those cloud-based apps are going to become more and more feasible. You're going to be running the latest and greatest games at max res, max settings.
Certainly.
And it's all going to be. Yes. You don't believe this?
No, are you kidding?
You don't believe this?
People dial up in America.
Now,
yeah, the internet
can't even
is so
get
bad
people
here.
No, but that's where it's gonna. It has to go. We need fatter pipes.
Why does
to
it
make
have
that
to go there? Why does it have to go there?
Because it's comical that our internet in the U.S. is so bad.
Yes,
it's a horrible.
And we're not there yet, but I think when we get there, something like a Chrome OS will definitely gain a foothold because people will not abide by a $2,000 computer to play, Counter-Strike.
Well, except the only thing that's I think kind of the fallacy in that analysis is that assumes that big fat $2,000 desktop is going to be a big fat unmoving target. Like you don't think that if they're adding all this computing and GPU on the server side, you don't think your client is going to get significantly faster? I mean, you think about how fast the internet's going to be in 5 years. Think about how fast a desktop will be in 5 years or 10 years. And you're not going to be like, awesome. I can stream 1080p games without all the compression artifacts that we get right now with stream gaming, right? But you know what? Whoop-de-doo. You can play 4K gaming right now, and it'll be 8K in 2 years. Right?
Imagine though if you could pick up a Chromebook for like $100 and get your Google Fiber for like maybe $50 a month, and that's your, if the barrier to entry is that low, then the size of the gaming culture could just explode.
Yeah, I mean, who knows how it's going to end up going? But what I'm saying is the desktop will not stand still. You will get more power. You will. I mean, come on, they've 10 terabyte hard drives on your desktop. Are you going to be syncing 8 terabytes worth of photos to your server space in Google Drive anytime soon?
That's a lot. That's a lot of porn.
No, but we're going to a place where VR is going to be a big thing. Maybe I'm going to be having a wearable where every step I take, every move is recorded in 360 smell-o-vision.
Oh, sure.
And that is not a 5 megabyte JPEG. That's going to be a 1 terabyte file of my trip to Disney World that I'm going to maybe want to relive. Put the helmet on and I'm back at,
Gordon's just very jaded. He doesn't share your optimism.
I really do believe that technology, it's getting there. It's going faster than we're expecting it to. And when we get to Oculus, we can talk more about that.
Is that necessarily better, though?
I don't know. I mean,
to Scott's credit, NVIDIA is also banking heavily on the cloud or streaming, if you will, with their grid. And
sure.
That's where they see things going as well.
Well, come on, this is an episode of Star Trek. That is one possible future. We don't know if that is going to be future. And I will tell you, anybody who tells you that they know the future is wrong, because no one knows the future, right? I mean, look, people said desktop computing was dead 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Why? It's all going to be whatever. It's going to
thin
be
clients where everybody's talking about thin clients, and you're just going to sit at your desk, and there's going to be a monitor and a keyboard, and it just hasn't materialized.
The infrastructure just is not there, not even close, is a problem.
Yeah.
The internet is so bad in the U.S. that we're so far off.
Yeah,
that would be awesome, because people don't want to dealing with their own disks anymore. People want subscription stuff. Yeah. People don't want to stream everything, but it's just the infrastructure's not in place.
Nobody wants to deal with Comcast anymore.
I have problems streaming freaking Netflix in 720p at my house with Comcast.
But you shouldn't, because it only takes 4 megabits per second to stream 1080p.
It's a relatively small file that they're pushing over. I mean, my shitty internet connection, and it just doesn't work half the time. It sucks.
Yeah.
And it's not reliable.
Yeah, we really need somebody like Google to take over on a national level, because the competition that we currently have just doesn't seem to be up to the task, or unwilling, because what they have right now makes them plenty of money anyway. So they're like, I don't care.
It's going to get even better when Comcast and Time Warner merge too, guys. Even better for the customer.
If that happens.
Well,
it's a mess. It's definitely a mess.
Well, Google Fiber is coming to the Bay Area.
So and I think Google's already talking about 10 gigabits per second, to just, Joe Sixpack at home, not like a high-end business user.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, but that's you're servicing how many people have Google Fiber, right?
It's like 3 cities.
Kansas, Austin.
Yeah. I mean, how many actual subscribers?
It's still well in the range of a pilot program. They might abandon at any time.
I don't think it's going to be coming to San Francisco anytime soon, too, because the infrastructure of the city is so screwed up and old that they have to go actually physically dig ditches under the ground.
Yeah, it's going to definitely happen in Silicon Valley before it comes to
it's so tough to do that in the city. It's so small and compact.
I think Sonic.net is working on that locally, but it's definitely probably going to be a regional type thing.
Yeah, from what I heard, just talking to my friend who works at Google, is he said that it's easier to implement in cities where it's flat.
And
San Francisco, as we know,
is not flat.
It's probably why Kansas was one of the reasons why Kansas was a popular, choice.
Right. So this fantasy of you getting 4K streamed to your Photoshop and Premiere editing over the cloud, that is a long ways away.
It would be awesome, but I don't know.
Would it really be awesome? Would it really be awesome?
The security issue.
I think it would be awesome, because it's probably, how fast do you want it? Well, how much are you willing to pay? Do you want eight virtual machines churning away on your export of your video project? What if you had an hour-long video you had to export? You could spin up 10 instances of a machine, and it would export in 5 minutes instead
I would
of
pay for that for freelance
instead of
stuff.
the 2 or 3 hours you're waiting.
Yeah.
So sometimes we're doing a crunch. Sometimes we're at something like CES where we're trying to do an interview with somebody from one of these companies, and then we're trying to get that video online within the next hour. It's virtually impossible with the current editing workflow, which is take this now 10 gigabyte file, put it on your computer, put it on the timeline, cut out the things, and then you have to export it and take another hour. So yeah, it seems like it would be a lot of enterprise situations would be better served by this cloud
you'd be
stuff.
paying to rent out a section of a render farm, basically, which would be awesome.
Yeah.
Right, but do you really want computing as a service? You're just constantly being dinged for it.
I'm already being dinged for. I mean, if I'm running a web app that I developed and it's got hooked up to Amazon's S3 storage, I'm paying for a computer somewhere else. That's
you do on that part, but I mean, you could bringing your video editing thing. You can go out and you can't anymore, but you could buy a copy of Premiere, or you could buy Vegas, I guess, if you didn't want to deal with paying every month for it. You could buy a computer. And basically, you're done. You own it forever. For the next 20 years, you could be editing videos on that.
But he's not saying that both platforms can't coexist at the same time. I mean, you could have
They could.
Right?
Yeah, and they could be compatible.
Yeah, I suppose.
I could work locally on a file, and then when I'm done cutting it,
crank it out faster.
I throw it out. I connect to the fat pipe I've got in my house, and hopefully fat pipe and. But then you're paying twice for things. But I'm used to that by now. In the last 5 years, I've paid 3 times for a lot of the same stuff. Buying games over, buying apps twice.
Oh, yeah.
Really? Why?
Yeah.
Well, you buy the Android version of a game, then the Steam version, and maybe you want the DRM free version from GOG.com or things like that.
All right, to reel it back into Windows 10, you guys have used. I mean, you guys used both, Apple and PC products. Do you guys have any input on how Microsoft can make Windows better? Or what do you think MacBooks and stuff like that do better than?
What's the price point on a new Windows install right now?
I think it's actually coming out free for Windows 8 users.
Well, I don't know. I think there was some speculation that Windows 9 was going to be free for Windows 8 users, but I'm not sure if that's confirmed. If that's actually going to happen.
What if I don't own any prior version of Windows? How much would it? Would you guess?
Typically, it goes around $100 or so.
$100.
That's not bad.
How much is Yosemite going to be?
It may be free.
Okay.
$100 is for the OEM version, so you can't take it from one computer to the next and use it over and over again. So if you want the full version, that would probably be $200. Like that.
Yeah, Apple's making a lot of money by people. Bigger install base means more money. They're now running their own app store. They're getting a cut off anything sold there.
Yeah.
Very much like Microsoft. Is Microsoft taking a cut of those?
Yeah,
I would imagine.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Except that nobody actually buys anything out of their app store. So.
Right.
So what conveniences does that store offer?
None.
None whatsoever.
The apps in the App Store are customized for a touch interface. So if you're into the touch thing, then they have a version of Internet Explorer that works really well with touch.
Yeah. You can't even download Chrome on it.
Yeah.
It's that bad.
Yeah.
Well, that's the war Google has with Microsoft.
Mozilla was working on a Windows 8 app version of Firefox, and they said they were getting fewer than 1,000 concurrent users a month, and so they were like, it's not worth it to us to continue development on this. So they stopped.
For me, switching we used to edit on old Mac towers, and really basic things is what they kind of need to add to whatever this current release Windows 10 is for Windows is they need to have font packs, they need to have video codecs, and there's all these weird little things that don't come with Windows out of the box that you don't have to worry about with OS 10. It's little things. Instead of adding some weird little widgets on your start menu, just add basic infrastructure that works better out of the box.
Yeah.
I also think for a new user, you might laugh at this, but Apple's giving away Pages, Keynote, whatever. This is their Microsoft
bundled
Office.
utilities.
They're bundling basically what's on Microsoft Office for free. They're giving away the operating system for free. I think Microsoft needs to get to the point where they can be okay with giving away this operating system for free.
I agree.
That brings the price point of a $600 laptop as a $600 laptop instead of this $700 laptop that really should be a $600 laptop because they have to build in the price of the OS on there.
Yeah, that's something that mobile device vendors have been telling Microsoft for years. Is like if you give us Windows to sell for free to sell and sell the hardware to the customer, we can make our devices like $100 cheaper.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's why Android devices are so cheap.
And their penetration will just go up. If you go to a college campus right now and you go to the front of the class and face the class, you're going to see rows and rows and rows of Apple logos.
In the Bay Area.
No, this is colleges everywhere. Kids don't go to college without an Apple computer anymore.
I guess the problem for Microsoft there is that
they don't sell hardware.
Well,
man.
Office and the Windows operating system have been cash cows for them since time immemorial. So for them to start giving away would really hit them in their pocketbook, and it will also piss off all the shareholders.
But a lot of people complain that Apple computers are more expensive than PCs. But when you factor in the cost of the Microsoft Office and then the OS itself, you almost get a pretty fair proposition value. There's an Apple tax, but it's not as high as you think it is.
No, that Apple computers are across the board more expensive for pretty much no reason.
They are.
And I own one. I own one for editing at home, and I love it, but I overpaid for it, and I'm fine with that, and I got my money back really quickly through freelance work, but for pretty mediocre specs compared to what you can get out of some PC desktops now, I paid like $1,000 premium.
Yeah, and the reason why Apple can give it away is, number one, they have massive revenue from iOS, so they can afford to not make as much money off of Mac and OS X, and they make money off of people overpaying for aluminum, right? Overpaying for what they have. Microsoft is a software company. They don't make hardware except for Surface, right? If they start giving it away, it'd be over. But I do agree there needs to be a cheaper version. I don't know how you can make a cheaper version and not gimp it so much that nobody wants it. But they need to compete down to that very low end. Of course, HP just introduced their StreamBook. It's basically a $200 Windows laptop to compete with Chromebooks, because Chromebook has got Microsoft shit scared, man. Right now,
how do they afford that? I mean, that means that the computer's essentially $100.
Yeah, well, they basically are not charging them very much for it. They've decided, I think, they just can't lose the $200 price point against Chrome, because you lick Chromebooks and Chrome OS continuing to get their foot in the door. And I mean, look at us. Our company, we moved off of Microsoft Outlook and Exchange servers to Gmail Enterprise,
all Google services. Yep.
And there was actually a plan at one point to move to Google Drive, which is of course their light internet based Office suite, because it's free, right, or damn near free compared to what you pay for cheap Office suite.
Really cheap.
Yeah. Of course, it doesn't compare, because I mean, I'm sorry, I don't care what anybody says. Google Drive in Docs, it does 1/100th of what you can do out of Office. The problem is not everybody needs 100% of what you can do in Office.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Let's transition gears a little bit and talk about something we touched upon a little bit earlier, the Oculus Rift. Oculus recently announced the what was it? Something Crystal Bay prototype.
Crystal Cove, I believe.
Crescent Bay.
Crescent Bay.
Crystal
Cove
is something different.
I'm getting them mixed up. So Crescent Bay prototype. Supposedly, rumors say it has like a 2560 by 1440 resolution panel, higher refresh rate, wider field of vision. I mean, what do you guys think about that? Some people think it's vaporware. Some people are excited. I'm personally excited about it.
I'm not even sold on the whole VR thing altogether, honestly.
Have you gotten a chance to try any of the...
Not the newest iteration, no.
Yeah.
Have you tried
I tried the older version, and I could put it on for 30 seconds, and I had to take it off.
I don't think it's very representative of where they're
where
at
it's
now,
gone, maybe.
where they can go.
Yeah, so Tom recently tried on DK2 for the first time. We actually ordered a DK2 about 6 weeks ago. It's still not here yet. But Tom, what did you think?
I thought I didn't get any of the dizziness.
DK1 was really bad.
It was really bad. I couldn't use it.
DK2 is a lot more responsive, a lot less latency. There is still a bit of the so-called screen door effect, because your eyes are just so close to the screen that there isn't enough pixels per inch to really compensate for the short distance. I could actually feel my eyelashes brushing. You can adjust it, so that the screen's a little bit further away, but still you need 4K per eye, I think, or something ridiculous.
I think what Oculus was saying is that in order for you to sort of not detect a screen door at all, it would have to be like 8K by 8K in each eye or something.
Wow.
So, but they can do tricks to sort of minimize it, so we can get to a point where it's good enough. But I'm sort of excited about it because I think a lot of people think it's a gimmick. But I mean, I've used it for like space simulators and stuff like that, and it actually allows you to do things that you couldn't otherwise do with just a flat monitor. So like if you're playing a flight sim, you can actually look up and see where like your opponents are flying around you, which you can't do on a flat screen TV or something. Does that sort of change your opinion about it a little bit more?
I mean, I just don't ever see myself putting on a headset at home and playing a game and just looking around like this for hours. I don't get it. But I haven't tried the newest build, so I don't know. When you guys get it in, I'll try it on and give it a shot.
Cool.
For sure.
I think I'm kind of a futurist, but I honestly,
I'm kind of a futurist.
Polar opposite of
I wholeheartedly
futurist
believe
too.
your children and your grandchildren are going to be laughing at the conversation we're having because they're going to be growing up with these things on their face. The motion sickness will be a something you get over. It's sea legs. It's whatever. Will get over the motion sickness. From what I hear with
Crescent Bay, so Wes
that motion sickness has got to go away. For it to be widely adopted, that can't even exist.
I don't think you're going to get rid of the motion sick. What you are going to get.
So you actually get motion sickness.
I do get very bad motion sickness, but if you immerse yourself in it, you'll get over it, and you're going to have to if you want to take part in this new technology.
That is a hard selling point to be like, you're going to try it on for the first couple of days. You're going to want to throw up the entire time, but you'll get over it.
You're going to have to slowly immerse yourself.
I can see planes up ahead worth it.
But I'm telling you, as a kid, I didn't get sick as quickly. I roller coasters all day and spin around and go on the teacup ride at Disneyland. And as an adult, I can't even look at the teacup ride without getting dizzy.
Oh,
so I really do believe that children are going to be adopting this first. And it's going to become part of their life. And
you're totally wrong.
They're
totally
they're going to be watching movies this way. They're going to be hanging out with their friends this way. It's going to be the club scene.
Oh God!
There's not going to be a club scene.
We're talking about.
It's going to be Snow Crash, and it's going to be
Sci-Fi Channel's Caprica right now with the hollow bands. You ever see that show?
No, I fortunately did not watch it.
We're talking about the origin of Cylons right now, guys.
Yeah.
But I think kids are going to adopt this quicker than adults will. And they're not going to be on Facebook. They're going to be jacked into whatever the next big virtual social network is.
These things are going to be like $400, man. You know who's going to adopt it? The same people who buy big old gaming PCs. It's going to be old fat nerds who buy this first.
Yeah, but the technology is going to get smaller. It's going to get slimmer. It's going to get a lot cheaper.
There was that Samsung with the Galaxy Note 4 has that adapter. Yeah, which
you put the glasses.
Yeah, put it in there. Yeah,
or you put your mobile phone in a holster.
So maybe that could be the way it's going. I can see that maybe. But I feel like the whole kit is kind of a barrier to entry.
How is that different than?
So it has gyroscopes and all that stuff inside the gear, but the screen is just your Note. You just put it on there, and I don't know. It seems like a total concept right now.
I think it only works with the Note 3.
It only works with the Note 4. That's it.
Note 4, right?
Yep.
So why do you think that has a feature? Whereas if you're connected to the PC, that.
I mean, it's a mobile thing, like Scott was saying. People don't want to be, you don't want to be in one place. You don't want to be tethered to something, which I think maybe that's the way it could go. I could see that more so. Because
you have a VR machine in your pocket, pretty much.
Yeah, you can carry it around with you. I can see that doing it casually, but not sitting at a desk for hours doing that. For me, I don't know. So.
Yeah, I think. But didn't you say the same thing? I mean, remember when first-person shooters first came along? I mean, really, it was like. A lot of people couldn't play them, right? Because they get
Scott still.
Well, I still can't play.
Austin
I still can't play Doom or Quake or.
I mean, I started on freaking GoldenEye N64. I played that immediately. So
have you tried to
test
your field of view at all?
Yes, so field of view doesn't help. Actually, even games like World of Warcraft, or not World of Warcraft, even World of Warcraft make me sick. But like Warcraft 3, where you're just looking down at a map, because it's a 3D space and because I feel like I'm flying over it, I feel like I'm getting sick. And Guitar Hero, the notes coming towards you, I feel like I'm moving forward instead of the notes coming towards
you. Do you run like a command line GUI or something? Like you're running command
crazy.
That's
why I'm a.
You should avoid psychoactive drugs.
Yeah, that's why I modded my NES and.
Do those pie charts on the table make you want to throw up?
But I mean, I think the same thing's going to happen. I'm not totally sold on what it is at this moment, but I think at some point there will be an incredible game that on Oculus or whoever ends up winning the VR war that'll make you go, oh shit, I've got to have this, right? Because the experience will be such a life-changing event for technology that you go, this I get it.
I'm actually
we haven't seen it yet.
I'm surprised that you're kind of optimistic about it.
Why? Because it makes sense. I mean, the reason why I only play shooters, I don't play anything else, is because I love that 3D world where you're running around.
Immersion.
So to take it one more step in immersion is it's gonna work as long as you've got Facebooks behind it now. So I imagine they're gonna have the development money to get there. But yeah, I mean, why would it not happen? But it will happen on the PC. It will not happen with the stupid phone. It will not happen with the tablet.
Oh no, it'll happen with the PC first.
Yeah, not enough power. You need tremendous amounts of power,
and it's got to be local because anything, any amount of latency is.
So all that fantasy cloud notebook shit, whatever.
I think Palmer Luckey himself, the guy who invented the Oculus VR thing, I think he said this stuff will not work on the console. Or the current consoles. They just don't have it.
Console players couldn't take it. They'd shit themselves. They're like, oh, too realistic. Turn it down to N64 mode.
So console players is funny. Console players are willing to put up with 900 pixels of resolution instead of 1080p or 1440 or whatever else. They're also going to be okay with the screen door effect because they're paying hundreds less for both their console and for whatever that Morpheus headset's going to cost.
What's also interesting is that when you have that thing on your face, you can't see a keyboard, and it seems like a gamepad would actually be a much better input.
Yeah.
And when I tested the DK2, it was at the NVIDIA Editors Day a few weeks ago, they actually handed me a gamepad to use instead of putting my hands on a keyboard. It was for Valkyrie. That was the test that they were using. It's just a space shooter.
Yeah.
That's the day when we shot that thing with Alien Isolation too, right? For the previous version of it, they give you gamepads, they didn't give you keyboard and mouse.
I'm sure you could use
it doesn't make sense, really.
You could, as long as you can sense where the WASD keys
You have to be
are.
a pretty good touch typist.
Like for me, I can find it instantly. It's kind of surprising.
But my problem was all the other numbers and
WASD, my hands just naturally fluctuate.
Yeah, but once you've got the headset on and you take your hands off the keyboard for some reason, to get back to where you were is not easy.
You're searching for those little bumps and the F and J keys on the keyboard.
Well, I had this idea. Jimmy thought I was crazy, but they need to just integrate a camera. So basically,
I didn't think you were crazy.
You either, when you look down at a certain angle, it turns on the camera, and you basically see where you can see where stuff is.
Picture in picture.
So you look down, either a picture in picture, or you simply look down and you see it, or it even sort of overlays the transparency of it. So you look down, you can see stuff on the desk. You can grab your coffee, drink your coffee, put it back down. Not spill it over your keyboard.
We'll see.
Jimmy just thinks you lift it off.
So I was just saying that's going to add
too low tech.
$100, $150, $200 to it basically adds to the cost of it. It's already expensive. Why not just go? There you go. There it is. It's just free. This is free. Whereas this is like adding weight to the thing.
If you're playing a Twitch shooter online,
it's strapped pretty hard on your head too, right? That'd be kind of tough to.
No, you can do this. It's just like that. Yeah, it's pretty much just like that.
That wouldn't be disorienting to you.
Cool? You look down, you get the view in your view of monitor. You can see right. It makes the game transparent.
It's a cool idea.
It's a way to do it.
I think it's a cool idea. I just think it's kind of impractical at this point. It would add to the weight. It would add to the cost. You need to build drivers for it.
What's going on here? What, it's a screensaver?
Yeah.
This is the HAL project. I pay for this. I actually have the paid version of a screensaver. It's pretty cheap, but this person has gone through Space 2001 and looked at it. He's gone through the film, frame by frame, looked at all the displays on Discovery, which is the spaceship HAL and all the astronauts are on, and recreated them as a screensaver.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
And he actually has, he's got the Blu-ray version. I've mapped this out. It's like everything's exactly the way it was.
That's awesome.
Yes. And if you have 4 monitors, it'll run on 4 monitors.
That's pretty rad.
All different things.
Nice. Why don't we transition to another topic? It's sort of actually relevant to you guys a little bit too. Gordon's doing a story comparing 2 different Intels.
Oh, right.
high-end Intel CPUs, Devil's Canyon, and an affordable Haswell E part.
Right. Although I guess mid-range probably is, for our readers, it'd be mid-range. For normal civilians, it'd be high-end.
Yeah. I mean, Devil's Canyon is like the highest consumer.
Highest end, 1150 parts. So the Core i7,
the other ones are more
4790K.
prosumer, I'd say.
I don't know. So Core i7 4790K quad core Haswell part versus a Core i7 5820K, which is the LGA 2011 V3. All that means is brand new big socket, which has the 8-core option. They have a cheap 6-core option.
Relatively cheap.
Relatively, but look.
You're talking about $380.
Well, that's why I'm saying it's Maximum PC readers. It's not for the whatever the lower end.
Warning anybody who thinks they're in for a bargain or something.
Haswell, the Devil's Canyon part, which is a Haswell, they just called it Devil's Canyon because it's cool, right?
Well, it has a higher base clock.
Yeah, a higher base clock. That part is $340, $350, right? So that's your normal Civi part, very highest end. The new 5820 Haswell E is $390. So for $340, 4 cores versus $390, 6 cores, 2 more cores.
Both with hyper-threading. So
both are hyper-threading. So 8 threads versus 12 threads. This is very, of course, they're very mid-range parts. I mean, well, one is high-end, but so they're very comparable. So you're spending what, $40 more, $30 more, $40 more for 2 more cores. Is it worth it?
Do they both have to be water-cooled?
Well, if you're going to overclock them to levels, you probably should do at least some mild closed loop water cooling.
But if you're not overclocking, I could just be okay with a heatsink and a fan?
Yes, you would. Both of these are engineered by Intel, one perfectly fine with a stock air heatsink.
Does the 5820K, do those come with their own coolers?
They don't come with it. You have to buy it separately, but you can also just buy, your Hyper 212 Evo, whatever, $25, right?
Yeah. But they're different form factors, right?
One is a small socket, one is a big socket. So since obviously this is not a $1,000 CPU, we really wanted to see with this story, what's the better buy? Because they're both, one is a new platform, the other one is in an older platform, but still the top of its game. They're both very similar in price.
2 different motherboard platforms too.
Yeah.
Right.
The 2011 motherboard.
I think it's pretty much like the cheapest version of the prosumer versus the highest end of the consumer.
Right. And that's very much, it's a good description.
Yeah.
So, and of course for video editing, you got to push those big fat heavy multi-threaded loads, which is better. So we actually built 2 nearly identical systems. All the parts are the same except for the CPU, the motherboard, and RAM, because the RAM you have to use DDR4 and the new chip in the Haswell E. The older chip you can just use cheaper DDR3. I also used a bigger case on one of them just because I want to look a little different rather than have them looking exactly the same. But the difference between building a Haswell E box and a Haswell Devil's Canyon box is about $330. And these are the machines we built are actually very high end. They're not low end machines. So like the configuration I have on here actually has 2 GTX 980 cards, 550 apiece. You can of course only run 1 card and get a fantastic performance out of them. But I think we're looking at about a $330 difference between the Haswell E and the Devil's Canyon part. And I actually ran the benchmarks late last night and this morning. I haven't had a chance to actually convert them yet, but here's just to give you an idea. X264, which is an encoder test using the X264 codec. Devil's Canyon, now this is I've overclocked it to 4.5 gigahertz, all cores, running at 4.5 under load. 86.4 frames a second. The Haswell E machine, which is overclocked to basically 4.3 gigahertz when all 6 cores are active, 126.5 frames a second. And that's pass 1. The second pass of X264, which is more heavily multi-threaded, the Devil's Canyon part, all cores again running at 4.5 gigahertz, 19.3 frames a second. The Haswell E at 4.3, 27.7 frames. That's fairly significant. And then I also did a Premiere render. We just take it, EOS 5D Mark II video, put a bunch of transitions, throw some music on, export it, maximum render quality using CPU only. Looks like on the Devil's Canyon part, it took roughly about 50 minutes. And on the Haswell E, I'm trying to read my handwriting here, about 25 minutes, 26 minutes.
Oh, so like half.
So that's a $300 and something difference you said between the 2 builds?
That's when you count motherboard and RAM.
In the end, have a usable.
And the CPU.
And you had to water cool both of these?
they're both water cooled. I could have gone with cheaper water cools. I used a Kraken X61. It's a pretty nice water cooled. You could use even an H60 if you're not going to overclock it. Is hard.
What's the total cost of each of those builds? I know the difference between the two, but
okay, this is with two 980 cards. Of course, you can subtract $550, but
from either system.
So Devil's Canyon, basically $2,700. Take $500 off if you want to just run one video card.
Okay.
The Haswell E-Box, $2,994, so $3,000 versus $2,700. Take $550 off, go to a single video card. There are some things you could probably get a little cheaper DDR4. I also put a Blu-ray burner in there, which, you know, that's $60 you could go with no optical drive. So there are ways to cheap out. And we also used a 500 gig SSD. So you could definitely shave off. If you wanted to, you could do this Devil's Canyon box for, I don't know.
If you were just doing them as
$1,800, $1,700.
If you were just doing them as pure encoder boxes, you could just on the regular Haswell, you could eliminate the video cards altogether. Whereas Haswell E,
you probably want some video.
You're not gonna. You're gonna run a video card. There's just no way that you'd have to.
Yeah, Brett, you're really adamant about GPU acceleration.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of required now with especially Premiere. It takes full advantage of GPU acceleration.
Right.
There's actually a specific list of cards that are supported by Premiere, so it's kind of a requirement to get not necessarily rendering, but getting actual editing done. Like rendering back effects and different video codecs in real time relies heavily on GPU.
Right. You need a real video card and a nice fast one.
Yep.
And for the most part, CUDA is still better, I think, than OpenCL implementation at this point in Premiere. So, and then of course, both these renders were in Premiere using the CPU. There is, without, of course, editing the INF file, you can't make it work on a 980 card. But of course, GPU encoding is severely fast. But I mean, that looks like you're getting on your video kind of task. You're getting a fairly significant bump in performance. I mean, I was actually very surprised. And then also, I ran some other tests, more standard. Desktop photo editing, photo kind of stuff. And for the most part, the Haswell E was a little bit faster, but not by much, and it was basically the same. So
for video, it sounds like you're giving the nod. You're saying it's probably worth it for...
Yeah, if you're doing anything that's thread heavy, like what you guys do, it's ass-kicking.
For the render time alone, it seems worth it.
Yeah, that would literally save you hours in a 2-day edit session.
Right.
And then another $650 will get you the 8-core.
Yes.
With 16 threads.
Right, but of course that's $1,000.
It's a big jump.
Right.
So I think a lot of people, they really look at this, they want to build a high-end, very nice box. I mean, actually a Haswell Devil's Canyon box is still fine for video editing.
Sure.
But getting those 2 extra cores, man, especially if they're Haswell cores instead of an older Ivy Bridge E, it's like, man, it's just smoking fast. I was really quite surprised.
Yeah, I mean, we spend a lot of time just babysitting renders, and especially when we're on like trade shows and stuff like that, like CES. Spend a lot of time just sitting there babysitting, and if we were to cut that in half for like $300 something more, it's totally worth the investment.
Yeah, and you know what I did? So I looked at the numbers. I said, Haswell E is the way to go. Basically, 5820 I would recommend. I mean, it's $300. Although if you're a gamer, I would say, if I'm a gamer, I take that $300 I get a second video card. You know, those extra cores don't make that much of a difference with games. But if you're doing real work, pay for the cores. So I said, you know, this is it. I want this. But I'm a big Apple fan, so I rushed down to the Apple store and I said, I need the Mac Pro. Want the brand new Haswell E in it. Give me the 8-core version. They said, what's that? And I said, you know, Haswell E, brand new CPU. We had it for a couple months on the PC, but I want Apple. I want the Apple version, Haswell E.
You could Hackintosh your way to a
I don't think you could.
But I want a Mac Pro. It needs to be.
Yeah, it only runs on certain hardware.
It needs to be beautiful.
The motherboard's
that only Apple can do with their beauty. And I want it with Haswell E.
I have some bad news.
Were they? So,
the Apple pretty much has given up on the power user for the most part. Their new Mac Pros are outrageously expensive, really aimed at the luxury.
Although Max is really, Max, our other video
market
guy, is really into the form factor.
Well, the form factor is cool because you can travel with it really, really easily.
Right, small.
Sort of.
It's the convenience. Well, it's a weird shape, right? But it's small.
You could probably put it in a backpack, right?
But then you've got to drag all these drives around you.
Keep people from trying to put out their cigarette butts on
the top of it.
I mean, if you have the money to spend, get both.
Or you know what?
Such a solution, just be richer.
You could build.
Yeah, if you're rich enough to buy that Mac Pro, you can also own one of the most awesome Max PC rigs that one of your dream machines.
You could
Just
build a
have money.
micro ATX Haswell box with an 8-core machine,
Right,
an
like
8-core
a
Haswell
big
part. Get it in the same rolling Pelican case. You're good to go. And also, like, hey, by the way, I'm putting those 10 terabyte desktop drives inside the machine. My portable video editing machine has 2 terabytes RAID 0 SSD, and then 2 10 terabyte drives all in the box. Plug it into one plug in the wall.
Yeah.
Except for Helvetica. You don't have Helvetica.
The font? No, we don't have that. I'm sure we don't have
I'm sure you can buy it.
Yes, you can, but it's really expensive.
I'm sure you can.
Yeah, that's the
buy
thing is when we
other
switched
things.
over, we had to deal with all those font
Yeah,
conversions.
you
It was
know.
surprising
Yes.
how expensive Helvetica
yeah,
is.
No,
you
yeah,
know,
fonts are really
It's funny
expensive.
if you're a designer, if you're a serious designer, and
You
you
pay
need
for it.
those, you have to pay for those fonts,
Yeah.
or you have to have a Mac on the side to do work like that with Helvetica.
Yeah, it's really funny, but it's people forget. I mean, reaching way back to the desktop publishing days when there was a war over this. I mean, really, it was Microsoft and Apple that really kind of broke Adobe on that, right? Because they were like, "We're tired of your monopoly over fonts. We're going to introduce TrueScript or whatever it was. What was it? TrueType, and kind of changed the world. Although for some reason, typography is only a big thing to the Mac for some reason.
Steve Jobs. All right, let's transition to some reader questions. We have a whole bunch. Let's see if we can knock some of those out. We should get some music for reader questions. I feel like I need to press a button.
We can make that happen.
Yeah.
We have a music library.
We need a
Just
proper
let us know.
intro.
That's one thing I'd like.
If you want to sound like
I want to
something,
get a
just
plug
let
out
us
to
know.
Killer Tracks right now.
All right, so just imagine some music played, transitioning us to reader questions.
We can fill it in post.
Fix it in post, Max.
Dexter Epley asks, would you consider doing a live No BS podcast, perhaps on Twitch? As long as you gave us a heads up like this, I would love to tune in. What do you guys think? Is that sort of opening up a new can of worms there?
We've done live in the past.
Well, we actually did.
We did it
It was
twice.
before my time.
Yeah,
We did
now
it twice.
Gordon and Scott and I.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing we've learned is you can, now this might sound crazy, you can only stream video games on Twitch. You cannot stream
Right.
a podcast. You have to be playing a video game. And if you want to do a board game, you need special permission from Twitch to do a board game.
We could do like Ustream, right?
You can do Ustream,
Yeah.
so yeah.
That's what we ended up doing
But
with,
using exactly Twitch, you have to. This was kind of
That's
bizarre
like-
to me. I
It's like
didn't
using
realize.
Hotmail instead of Google Mail.
Yeah.
Could you actually
that?
stream a game in the background?
No,
And
it has to be. It actually has to be.
Yeah,
the,
if you do that, then you get sued.
They have. If you read their terms, the picture of the game has to be bigger than the people playing it.
Right.
It's really bizarre. Anyway.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, one disadvantage of doing it live is you can't do the multi-camera setup, right? That would be kind of tricky.
Yes, we could
We
do
could.
a
We got a- we
multi-camera.
have a
We could
switcher.
switch it.
Yeah.
So yes, I say we should do it. And the next time you do your No BS podcast, you could definitely do it live, and we can have a chat window up
Yeah.
so you guys can
You
respond
can have a
to
production
what's happening.
production truck like outside in the parking lot. And you can
That's
just,
not. So yes, that's not a problem. I say we do it.
Yeah.
I mean, does making it live, is that any better somehow? Like, how's that?
Yeah, we don't have to edit it.
That's true.
Way less work for us afterwards.
yeah.
Gotcha.
So they're like, yes,
All
of
right.
course it's a good idea.
But when it's archived, I guess it probably looks worse. Probably.
It's
No, you got-
it actually might look better because we're shooting this with GoPros right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We use our
Old
real
GoPros.
studio.
It could look better. It could.
All
Yeah,
right.
it could look a lot better.
So it takes some time to fax it out though and figure it out beforehand for sure though.
Yeah, we'll spend some time on it.
Gotcha. For those that don't know, we actually edited out a part where Tom just puked all over himself.
Yes.
So
I
that
wasn't
might
gonna
not
say
go over
anything.
well in the live stream. I'm just saying, just throwing it out there. Sorry, Tom.
That's all right.
Camel, it's Camel spelled with a K, asks, I haven't upgraded my PC in 3 years, and nothing new PC-wise is exciting to me at all. Just a statement, not a question. I mean, did you guys?
Well, what's in your box? We can't really say.
So 3 years ago, that was probably like 500 series NVIDIA cards. Those cards aren't bad. You know?
Yeah, they're getting. I mean, yeah,
That's
You're
you're
I-
definitely turning things down, right? to
That's the
play.
beginning of Ivy Bridge. I
Sandy
wanna say.
Bridge. Sandy Bridge is
Is it
out.
Sandy Bridge?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you're still running a Sandy Bridge part, you're fine. But I mean, 980 is pretty exciting, I think, because you're getting killer performance, incredibly low power. In fact, one of the tests I did was on the Haswell E-Box, 6 cores. I lit them all up in Prime 95. The entire machine, 500 gigabyte SSD, 4 terabyte hard drive, 1980, 16 gigs of RAM, 300 watts, right? That's at the wall, pulling at the wall. I did the same thing with the 980, just putting a GPU load on it, and it was 290 watts, which is normally unheard of because usually the GPU is sucking down way more power than the CPU.
290 is actually the TDP of the Radeon R9 290X.
Yeah, and that was at the wall. That was at the wall. So it's actually running on less on the other side of that power supply. So,
yeah.
Gotcha. I think that there have been some cool stuff, but I don't know if you need to upgrade. It's sort of a nice thing.
If you're running Sandy Bridge, you're still in good shape.
Right.
It depends on
like a 500 series video card.
It's possible he doesn't have an SSD. If he hasn't upgraded anything in 3 years, I would recommend getting one of those.
That's the biggest
That makes a
upgrade.
huge difference.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you guys do most of your video editing on SSD and then like archive it on like a hard drive or something?
We actually pull from servers locally here, and they're not SSDs. They are, I think, 7,200 RPM hard drives, just in like an array.
We're just doing 10 gig.
10 gig Ethernet connection.
Yeah. 10 gig Ethernet.
What kind of read-write speeds can you get over the 10 gig?
It's a total goddamn mystery to me. I have no. It seems.
I wish we could run some sort of benchmark to figure that out.
Yeah, you can.
Because I'm sure that it could be better.
It's
serviceable.
It's a little bit unreliable speed-wise.
It's not real time.
If we could, it'd be awesome. Just edit just straight off SSDs and have it be local and reliable. We have to share files all day long, so it's not really much of a possibility for us.
It's. I think our bottleneck is really our render time. Writing back to a drive is not the bottleneck. So over the 10 gig Ethernet, really the bottleneck is with the processor and rendering each frame.
Are you still running those ridiculous XSerVs in there? Those SAN drives?
I don't know. I think it's just an array now, isn't it?
They've migrated to something else. We used to just have probably Max PC readers don't want to hear this, but oh my gosh, we had like a router back there with just a few thumb drives plugged into it, and that was what some of our storage was. Some thumb drives.
It was just that on a rack.
Really?
It was just a bunch of thumb drives, like
Are you sure?
Well, not thumb drives.
No, but not thumb drives. USB drives.
USB portable hard drives.
Yeah, portable USB drives. Plugged in USB 2.
It was a combination of that and I think
no, there was a thumb
hard
drive
drives like inside docks and stuff.
Yeah,
that's good. But think about the money you're saving.
Yeah,
sure. Not in
USB.
Not in time money.
So if I buy a brand new motherboard tomorrow, is USB 3 going to be on that motherboard?
USB 3 has been standard.
Pretty ubiquitous now, isn't it?
For a long time.
So what's the new USB spec? That's the upside down.
That's 3.1.
Is that actually confirmed, or is that a rumor? I'm not sure.
I think it's confirmed now, right? Yeah.
Is it?
I haven't seen any motherboards with it yet, but the technology
very
is real.
New.
Yeah.
And far from being mainstream. Eric Lynn asks, this is a pretty interesting question. What do you think gaming will be like in 5 years in terms of popular genres and new, better graphics?
All 3D all the time. Oculus Rift.
You say that, but like Hearthstone. Did anybody expect Hearthstone to be this juggernaut of a game?
No, I don't think even Blizzard did.
So it's really all about the gameplay, and it's so. We may have another Hearthstone in our hands in 5 years, or an Angry Birds.
Although I will say, I imagine that Battlefield, by then it'll be Battlefield 6, right? I'm going to guess. Throughout 3 years, maybe Battlefield 5.
Yeah.
I think it'll be pretty impressive, and I think all the games...
4K?
It's not going to be, 4K. Well, I mean, the textures are only going to get better.
Do you think we're going to achieve realistic graphics anytime soon? Within that
you mean like photorealistic?
I don't know if we're ever going to get to the point where it's
I doubt that.
I mean, there are in photos.
Immediately,
if you don't render humans, I think we've achieved that so far. Like NVIDIA has rendered like living room spaces that are, I can't tell.
Yeah,
in real time.
I think is also interesting too is like if you play certain games like Battlefield 4. I mean, it's older now at this point, but you play the single player version of Battlefield. And the animations and the models and just like, wow, it looks like
really good.
It is really close.
Yeah.
Like you have to look at it twice. Sometimes go, okay, that's a game. But of course you play multiplayer and things are way turned down. The number of polygons in actual online gameplay is way turned down, I think. So it'd be kind of nice if you got to the same quality that you got out of single player that you did in multiplayer.
Have we reached Toy Story graphics yet?
I think we're way past it at this point.
Toy Story 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Right?
It's been a while since I've seen that movie, but I remember being blown away as a kid, so I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
We should.
But that was a while ago now, right?
But it looked amazing.
99, I want to say.
Whoa.
I could look it up now.
You know,
Long
it
time
takes
ago.
it takes almost a day.
Hey, Gordon, why
It takes-
don't you bust up the Toy Story trailer or something?
So for a current Pixar film, correct me if I'm wrong. 'Cause
Your girlfriend
my
works for
girlfriend
Pixar.
works
That's
at
awesome.
Pixar.
Full disclosure.
But yeah, full disclosure. For a current
Money
for,
hats.
for a new film, I believe they said they have a huge render farm, which I've seen. It's really cool. It takes about a day of processing time to render one frame of a Pixar film.
That's the same
you
with,
know, whatever resolution the latest HD projectors run.
Same with ILM too, with all the Transformers movies. It takes them like a day to render one frame of like Optimus Prime.
And they're still doing
whatever.
distributed across everybody's desktops too at night.
Yeah,
a lot of the places.
it's across it's a server farm.
Right.
So it's
But even-
just a.
I know at DreamWorks, I have a friend who works there. They were using people's desktops at night too. So
So for reference, Toy Story came out in 1995.
here we go.
So this is not the remastered Toy Story. Well, we'll know right away, won't we?
Is there actually a remastered Toy Story?
Yeah, they released Toy Story with the new shaders and
yeah, we're
lighting.
way past that.
Okay.
We're way past
The
95.
movements actually look pretty good though.
So it was like Toy Story 1
What is-
2.0.
resolution is this streaming in right now?
Well, that's not HD.
Yeah, that's pretty low.
That looks okay.
So I kind of can't tell.
Hey, we're filming it with GoPros, so.
Yeah.
Old GoPros.
And this is going to be on YouTube. Again.
GoPro, you hear this?
Yeah.
So what's taking so long to render each of these frames is really the light bouncing around, and it's doing its best to figure out exactly what colors are going to reflect off of what other colors. If you put a red thing next to a white thing, red's going to bounce off that red thing and go onto the white thing. How much red goes onto
Yeah,
the
so
white
the
thing?
physics of the whole scene.
It's all the photons. You're basically rendering out where the photons are going.
So I mean, so what do you guys think? I mean, are we better than this? I feel like the movements feel much more organic than what you'd see in a video game.
Yeah, I feel like the problem with a lot of gaming is still like maintaining that proper stable frame rate, not necessarily the actual lighting.
That's because you're not playing games on PC.
No, I've done that as well. Same thing.
Right.
Yeah, I think the lighting here is still really good.
It is, yeah. That's actually surprisingly holds up really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. But I think we're definitely past this on a PC. There's certain things that I think look far better than this on a PC.
Well, the
Right.
textures probably look
Textures,
better, but I think the lighting was still better in the film.
Right.
So
You can draw each frame. Nice thing about that. All right, let's go. Let's do just one more question since this thing is running a bit long. Dennis Brussel asks, is there any option for user fan control on Maxwell cards? Initial reviews show that fans do not start to spin until 60C. As a gamer, I don't care about noise, but want my GPU to remain as cool as possible. I think, Tom, this is probably a good question for you.
yeah, I tested the MSI GTX 980 Gaming 4G. There's two different SKUs. This is the higher end SKU, and it has an app that allows you to specifically control the fans. And by default, neither of the two fans will spin up at all when the card is just sitting on the desktop, and they'll get up to, I want to say it was like under 50C, and then when you start gaming, one of the fans will spin up, and I even under the heaviest loads, I didn't see the card get up over like 68, and the fans weren't really even that loud. So, but you can there is custom fan control, at least on that card.
Right. You could also use like third-party software like MSI Afterburner and all that stuff too, right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Are there any dangers with messing with fan control if you don't know what you're doing?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can force the fans to be quieter than they should be, and the card gets really hot.
Yeah.
But then what happens there is at the upper bound, the card will detect a certain like emergency temperature, and the clock speeds will start going lower and lower and lower to compensate for the low speed of the fans.
It's fairly safe to
Yeah.
the clock nowadays, I feel. So, good question though.
Yeah.
All right, that about wraps it up. You can check us out online at MaximumPC.com. You can follow us on Twitter and Facebook. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you can email us at MaximumPCPodcast@gmail.com. You can send us a message at our 24-hour No BS podcast hotline at 1-877-404-1337, extension 1337. You can subscribe to us on Google Play, iTunes, Kindle, Nook, and Zinio. On behalf of the Maximum PC crew, thank you for listening.